Hello and welcome to Group 8's presentation on Cape Town's water crisis. Cape Town is the second largest city in terms of population in South Africa, second to Johannesburg. It is a port city on South Africa's southwest coast on a peninsula. It is known for Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned, Kirstenbosch Gardens, Table Mountain, beautiful beaches, culture, many wineries, and more. And its water crisis is occurring as we speak. The crisis is the result of a drought that began in 2015, leading to water reservoir levels dropping dramatically. As a result, the city has made plans for day zero. For reference, Cape Town running out of water would be similar to San Diego going dry. For some background on the issue and to show the gravity of the crisis, Cape Town comprises 9.9% of South Africa's GDP. The extreme drought that resulted in the crisis began in 2015 and has lasted until this year. The city's water reservoirs are currently at 26% capacity, and the city plans to cut taps at 13.5%. In mid-January 2018, Cape Town Mayor Patricia de Lille announced that the city would be forced to shut off most of its municipal water supply if conditions do not change. Day zero would be declared when the water level of the city's major dams reaches 13.5%. When this occurs, municipal water supplies would be largely switched off, and residents would rely on 149 water collection points around the city to collect a daily ration of 25 liters of water per person. In the photo above, people line up in Milnerton, a suburb of Cape Town, to buy water at a grocery store. In the photo below, people line up at pipes fed by a natural spring in St. James, just outside of Cape Town. One of the city's plans to provide water to Cape Town residents involves drilling into the aquifers under the iconic Table Mountain. Ecologists warn that depleting the aquifers would threaten the unique biodiversity of the Cape Floral region. For example, one of the valleys along Table Mountain is the only known home for Erica bakeri, the shrub-like plant with delicate pink flowers that is considered critically endangered. Efforts to cultivate this plant elsewhere have failed. The environmental impacts of groundwater use are hard to predict. Studies by the USGS have shown significant impacts as the natural flow is altered and contaminants are introduced. This can change animal migrations and ecosystems completely as streams drop and the natural landscape changes. Finally, inadequate sanitation can increase the spread and breeding of bacteria, parasites, and insects, which has possible ramifications for the ecosystem. This graphic has been distributed by the City of Cape Town to its residents to remind them of the 50-liter or 13 gallons of water per person per day recommendation, and what that water should be used for as far as everyday needs. The limitations on water use is a public health concern, especially for vulnerable populations. For instance, elderly people and pregnant women may find it difficult to access water collection sites or lift heavy jugs of water. Elderly people and newborns have weakened immune systems, therefore a decrease in hand washing, a decrease in washing foods for consumption, and a decrease in drinking water may cause disease more easily. In poorer populations and places like orphanages in the Western Cape, it is difficult to purchase bottled water, and many rely on donations. As a result of people not washing their hands, fecal-oral contamination of the water, the food, and the hands can occur. Listeriosis is a serious infection usually caused by eating foods contaminated with the bacterium Listeria monocytogenes. Since last year, 115 cases of listeriosis have been reported. Of those, 29 have died in Cape Town. Officials warn that such waterborne illnesses as cholera, hepatitis A, and typhoid fever likely will become more prevalent as locals take to storing water in contaminated containers. With the resident restriction of 13 gallons of water per person daily, there have been increased concerns about disease, including fecal-oral contamination of water. Clean water and sanitation is essential for disease prevention. Approximately 2.2 million people die each year from diarrheal disease worldwide. The problem is only exacerbated by a high population density. Cape Town has a population of 3.81 million people and a density of 1,530 people per square kilometer. The public health problem associated with inadequate water also are caused by bacteria, parasites, and insect attraction and reproduction that occur within standing water. Diseases associated with drought are not limited to, but include malaria, cholera, dysentery, valley fever, tuberculosis, Lyme disease, West Nile virus, E. coli, salmonella, dengue fever, and listeria. The Western Cape currently has the second highest incidence of listeriosis in South Africa. Other health effects of the crisis include vector-borne diseases and diarrheal disease. In regular cycles of wet and dry seasons, there is an increase in mosquito populations at the start of the wet season, often buoyed by the decrease of predators during the dry season. This is different than a pervasive period of dryness, such as times of drought, which implicates a decrease in the availability of water, which is needed for these arthropods to breed. It is critical that people are educated to maintain their water supplies are covered. Diarrheal disease. The use of less than 19 liters of water daily per person has been found to correlate with increased incidence of fecal-oral disease. Furthermore, the obligation to ration water leads to diminished quality of hand washing and hygiene, which can lead to the spread of infectious agents. Waterless hand sanitizer is not effective against bacterial spores and protozoal oocytes, while also having limited protection from non-enveloped viruses. However, with greater effectiveness against many bacteria and enveloped viruses with hand washing, with less room for human error and obviously less impact on the water supply, this is a key element in at least supplementing the hygiene habits of the people. Health effects of the crisis may also include infections of the skin and eyes due to decreased quality of hygiene, respiratory illness due to increased exposure to airborne particulate matter. Other health effects of the crisis can also include infections of the skin and eyes due to decreased quality of hygiene, respiratory illness due to increased exposure to airborne particulate matter, and malnutrition due to consumption of not fully prepared produce and micronutrient deficits. Effects on the healthcare system may include resource-intensive enterprises caring for the most ill and lack of information on direct effects. The water crisis in Cape Town has also affected occupational health. The agricultural industry within and around Cape Town has lost revenue due to its 20% decrease in production as a result of the drought. It is estimated 30,000 jobs will be lost due to this crisis. Another issue is fire risk. Fire risk increases as environment and infrastructure become increasingly dry. This is especially significant for large industrial sites and warehousing, as fire on one site can spread more easily to other buildings in close proximity. Fire suppression systems may also fail due to reduced water pressure in high-use areas. From an occupational health standpoint, there are some changes in behavior that have had to occur. For instance, the food industry has had to purchase plasticware for their customers to cut back on dishwashing. Furthermore, plastic use also degrades environmental health. Again, there is a concern for lack of hand washing in the food industry, especially the kitchen staff, because it may cause the spread of illness. Finally, workers in Cape Town will potentially lose time they could be working because of having to wait for water at dedicated collection sites. As we all know, climate change can exacerbate extreme weather events. Cape Town's water crisis is a result of the worst drought on record. Water systems are not only built on previous climate patterns, but have been stretched by population growth. Furthermore, water loss is occurring much more quickly than anticipated. Adjustments must be made to adapt and mitigate these events. Because this is one of the first occurrences of a water shortage on this level in a developed city of this size, there are some unknowns. For instance, day zero depends on multiple variables such as how well residents are able to conserve water and the amount of rainfall in the coming months. Finally, infectious diseases are difficult to anticipate because they are affected by many variables. In order to gain a full understanding of Cape Town's water crisis, the politics of the issue are important to discuss. You can see in this map of South Africa's 2014 election results, the majority of the country is shaded in either green or yellow. The green represents the majority votes for the African National Congress, and the yellow represents votes for the Democratic Alliance Party. The Western Cape of South Africa is the only South African province run by the Democratic Alliance rather than the African National Congress. And now the Democratic Alliance and African National Congress point the blame at one another for the water crisis. The tension between both parties causes uncertainty in the ability of the city to fund innovative water conservation practices. To mitigate the impacts of the drought, various measures have been taken by the city. For instance, Cape Town is in the process of setting up desalination plants to act as alternative water supplies, where seawater can be pre-treated through reverse osmosis. Other innovations have included new water wells and effluent recycling. Water recycling is reusing treated wastewater for beneficial purposes, such as agricultural and landscape irrigation, industrial processes, toilet flushing, and replenishing of groundwater. Public education has also shown short-term effectiveness in reduction of water use. There has been a 50% reduction of water use since 2015. Finally, the Cape Town water crisis has shown us how interrelated environmental and public health concerns are. Climate change has played a major role in this water crisis. Droughts have been exacerbated and changing weather patterns have caused economic hardship for Cape Townians. Since Cape Town is one of the first major cities in the world to experience a water shortage on this level, the city has been forced to adapt and adopt methods that can lead the world in water stewardship and sustainable practices. Because of these innovative solutions, Cape Town has pushed back their day zero and may eventually solve world problems of clean water access in an ever-growing and ever-changing world.